I got this question a lot from many of the viewers, and a lot of you guys are asking, why was I punished so harshly, considering that I was raised in a non-religious family? Different type of the question, but on the same topic. Why was I judged so harshly, considering that I was born not religious? On the same topic, a lot of people asked me, isn't it considered that I was like a tinok shenishba, a baby that was captured? That the concept is that a person was born to a not religious family, he's like a baby that was captured. He doesn't know any better. So the question is, in general, since I got it so many times, is why was I judged so harshly, or why was I punished so harshly when I was born not religious, to a not religious family? So the answer has two parts to it. The first part was that I wasn't judged or punished harshly. In fact, I wasn't judged at all harshly. They only showed me my life. The fact that my life, how I lived my life, was embarrassing, that's a whole different issue. But I wasn't judged harshly. They weren't like screaming at me like, how dare I behave like how I behaved. The same thing in real life. A person can be now like a very famous or public figure, or somebody who is very honorable or very respectable, can be arrested for a very embarrassing offense. And everything is covered in the media and all over the newspapers and the TV. And then he gets to court, and they find him in court that he is actually he's not wrong, that he wasn't guilty. So he wasn't found guilty, he wasn't judged harshly, but all the way to the court and the media, and he's all over the place, it's extremely embarrassing for him. Even though he was found not guilty, the fact that he was all day long on TV and on newspapers saying that this guy did a certain bad thing, it's extremely embarrassing. So the same thing, I wasn't judged harshly, or I wasn't punished harshly. On the contrary, the fact that my behavior during my life was not the right way, it was very embarrassing to the soul. But when I was standing in front of the judges, they weren't judging me, they were just telling me, here is your life, this is how you behaved, what do you have to say for yourself? So the thing is that, again, in the video I'm cutting a lot of details just because I need to keep it short. But the fact was that my life was shown from beginning to end. And that was the embarrassing part. It was embarrassing, it was, that was what it was. So I wasn't judged harshly. For sure I wasn't punished harshly. On the contrary, they didn't even punish me. They gave me an option to come down back to this world and fix everything. So that's actually being even more merciful than judging harsh. The thing is that, to answer another part of the question, that I grew up not religious, or I didn't know, or like some questions that I got, that it's the concept of tinok shenishba, a baby that was captured. That might work for somebody else, somebody who grew up in a different place. Maybe somebody, if I would grow up in Alaska, and I can say, I didn't know anything. But I grew up in Eretz Israel, in Israel. I celebrated all the holidays. We study in school, in public school, you study Torah. I knew everything. It's not that I didn't know. The fact that I grew up to a non-religious family, that's one thing. I knew everything. I knew all the holidays. I did bar mitzvah. I just didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. It didn't interest me. So it's not that I didn't know. I meet a lot of people that I tell them, you're not allowed to do ABC, and they're like, wow, I never heard of it. I grew up Jewish, but I never heard that I'm not allowed to do ABC. So all the things that I didn't know, then I wasn't judged for anything. But I knew that we were supposed to keep Shabbat, and I knew we're not allowed to eat, certain animals, and I knew we're not allowed to eat milk and dairy, and I knew so many things. I just didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't want to care. I didn't want to do it. So for the stuff that I knew, and I just didn't want to do for whatever reason, then you judged for that. But going back again to what I said before, I wasn't judged harshly for anything, and nothing was punished harshly. First of all, there was no punishment at all, because obviously they were too nice to me, and they brought me back. So there wasn't any punishment at all. And the judgment wasn't harsh. The fact, again, going back to what I said before, the fact that it was extremely embarrassing, that's my problem. That's nobody else's problem. So when a person behaves in a certain way that is shameful, then, even though one will not judge him, but it's still shameful. If a person will walk, a dignified person will walk in the street and will behave in a very shameful way, even though people would look at him and be like, maybe he's having a bad day, maybe something's wrong, people will not judge him. But it's still shameful and it's still embarrassing. And the embarrassment came in many different ways of suffering. The general term was embarrassment, but the embarrassment was a way of suffering. It was just beyond, it wasn't bearable. Now going back to the beginning where I'm describing the whole black part that took me and it was scary and painful and all that, that has nothing to do with how I behaved. When a person behaves in a certain way in this world, doesn't matter if he's religious or if he's not religious, if he does certain things that are, let's call it for the sake of the example, evil or sinful or hurtful to other people, then he creates a certain spiritual blemish. He creates a certain void, a darkness. When a person does something bad in this world, let's say a person steals something, besides that it's a commandment from the Torah that you're not allowed to steal, it's not a nice thing to do anyways, regardless. So when a person does something like that, he creates a spiritual blemish in the world. He creates like a certain void, a darkness. So when I left the world, when my soul left the body, I was introduced to it. I saw that blemish. I saw that void, that darkness. And it came in many different negative ways. I describe it sometimes as pain or as suffering or as fear. But it was just reactions to my act. If in this world, if I spill a bucket of paint on the floor, okay, maybe I didn't do it intentionally, but the dirt is still on the floor and it still doesn't look so good. And it might be very annoying to scrub the paint off the floor. Maybe even painful. So it's the same thing in this world. The fact that I did something wrong, maybe it wasn't intentionally, but the fact is that I still did it. And the fact was that I still had to face the spiritual problem, the spiritual blemish, I like to call it, because it looks like a blemish to the perfection in the spiritual world. And it looks like darkness. The opposite of light is darkness. And light corresponds to good. Everything is good is corresponding to light. And the opposite of light, the opposite of good is dark. And it looked like a void. So it's the same thing in this world. When a person behaves a certain way, in a certain manner that is hurtful, he will have to suffer the consequences, whether he did it purposely or not. A person can be in a tight situation and chas v'shalom maybe steal somebody's credit card and go and use the credit card. The fact that he made it right now, it doesn't matter why he did it. Maybe he was starving or maybe he needed it, and the fact that he did it, it was wrong. He still has to give the credit card back. He still has to pay the debt, and he still has to be a little bit punished for the wrongdoing. Maybe he will be judged very, very soft because because of the circumstances. So to kind of sum it up, first of all, I don't think I was in the category in a lot of the things of a tinok shenishba, because I didn't know. What you don't know, then you don't not judged for it. But a lot of the things I did know, and I was judged for that. But to make it clear, I wasn't judged harshly for anything. Anything. I was just shown everything. And the fact that it was extremely embarrassing, that's my problem. It's nobody else's problem. And it wasn't, you can't blame anybody for judging me harshly. On the contrary, I wasn't judged harshly at all. And more than that, they were so kind to even tell me, okay, we'll give you another chance. Now, 99% of people don't come back. So you might wonder, oh, what do they go through? I believe that most people, they go through a fair trial and they judge favorably, or let's say if they don't judge favorably, so they go through what they need to go through to clean themselves up. They pay the fine and that's it, and they're over with it. But I don't think, not in my case, and I don't think in any other cases, that anyone is judged harshly, especially for things that they don't know, especially things that they like they grew up and they weren't aware of. It's a mishpat tzedek. Mishpat tzedek, it means that it's like real justice. It's not like in the courts in this world that can be influenced by different opinions, lawyers or the judge or whatever. Over there, it's 100% tzedek. So I hope I answered all your questions. I got this topic question many times, so I hope I kind of covered it all and didn't make a whole mess out of the whole answer. If something is still not clear, please feel free to ask.